it'll give us a little bit of a time.
Oh, right. Good. Starting soon. Love it. That's good. That's a good little thing because then you can get prepared.
Yes. Yeah. Hello, there we are. So awesome.
Mm.
Yay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Or if you're watching on the replay, thanks for watching the replay. So Alexandra and I are back again. My name, yeah, here we are. And as we were thinking about topics for today, we were thinking about focus
Mhm.
and how to keep focus on the thing that you really truly want to get done and accomplish. There are so many distractions in our world, not only from technology, but just from family and friends, texts, emails, so many things. And
Mhm.
then our own brains too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And so I don't know, Alexandra, do you want to talk a little bit about what some of where you are with that and kind of
Yeah. I mean, so like side story, but that will relate is our daughter had a boyfriend through most of college. And it was great because, she had kind of somebody built in to do things with all the time and give her courage and help her feel safe and belonging and all of those things. And I had been the mom that said, "Hey, let's try to avoid having exclusive relationships because it's hard enough to decide what you want just for yourself when you're by yourself. But then if you add, how will somebody else feel about this? Or what do they want to do? And how will that impact the choice that I truly want to make?" It's like it's another thing that can pull away your focus from what is it that you're trying to do. And so they just, after a long after college kind of on again, off again, neither knows what they're doing. College applications and admissions weren't going the way they anticipated they would. One lives in the northern part of the state, one lives in the southern part of the state. They finally decided now to just like go their separate ways. And she reflected back to me that this will make it easier for me to decide what I want to do for my life. And I said, "Yay, so full circle moment of a mom message." I'm grateful for that. Um, and then, I think as we were talking, as we were thinking about what are we going to talk about this time, we take on, all of us take on so many different roles and identities, right? We're
Mhm.
only ourselves for a very short period of time, and even then we're not because we still have our parents in our head and all of that stuff. But we take on employee, we take on parent, we take on partner, we might add a dog, because that's what you do. You add home ownership or, long-term living in a place that requires attention. And
Mhm.
I just recently became a true solopreneur, right? And so the whole decision of what am I going to do? Because after 30 years of working, I could do many different things. And it was kind of like, well,
Yeah,
what do I want to do? Well,
yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't feel a particular one thing. And I have to do, right? Like I don't have a choice. I have to do the thing I'm going to do to make a living, whatever that's going to be. And to the point you made, Kim, about we have like the voices in our head, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And,
Yes.
you know, the voices in our head that say all sorts of crazy things to us, like, you better spread your eggs across different baskets because you never know
Mhm.
which one will strike. What if you pick the one and it's the wrong one? Um, you're no good at sales. So, how in the world are you going to build business? All of the things that happen. And then the one for me that I think has plagued me probably for my whole life is that I will have enough time to do whatever I want.
Mm.
No, I don't. And so I was pursuing actually 3 separate businesses.
Right, right.
And right? And finally, I did a proper, like, let's try to make one go with all the proper things in place, and it just went nowhere. And I had spent a ton of time, not a ton of money, but, enough money of platforms and all these things. Um, and it just didn't work. And so I said, I'm going to give it 6 weeks. And if it doesn't work, then I'm pulling the plug. And I pulled the plug on one. And then I sat down to say, okay, if I'm all in on this other one, what does my time actually look like
Mhm.
of what I actually have available to me? And it was super stark. Like,
Mm.
I have this many hours in a week. I have to sleep. I want to pay attention to my health and have time for physical activity. I still have adult kids who still come to me at 9:30 at night with their most deep and, you know,
Right, right.
meaningful questions. Like, could you put time on my calendar instead of just coming in when I'm about to fall asleep? But I realized just really, like, you don't have a lot of time in a day. And to
Yeah.
think that, "Oh, in a day, I could get XYZ plus ABC done." It's a fantasy that
Mhm.
you could do that. And so, for me, focus has been a learning experience, especially becoming a solopreneur, because working in companies, somebody
Mhm.
gives you something to do, and you do it to the best of your ability, but your whole schedule is dictated by that something else that somebody gave you to do. And
Yeah.
so now it's, what am I going to do? How am I going to spend this time? And so it really can be quite a dense forest to work your way through to actually even decide what you're going to focus on,
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
alone keep your focus on the
Yes.
thing.
Yes,
That was a
yes.
super long
No.
blathering
Oh,
thing,
oh, no,
but
it's it's really interesting because I thought your story with your daughter at the beginning was gonna go a different direction because it's that one focus, right? And, like, having that one focus of person that you're with, but
yeah,
then kind of, like, really translating that and bringing it back to, like, well, how do I know what I want? And part
right.
of that is by bumping up against so many different people, so many different situations and environments that you start to be able to define,
Mhm,
okay, no, this is not what I want, but this feels really good, or this feels
mhm,
not so great.
mhm,
And really truly starting to identify what's important to you.
mhm,
And so it's that one focus of being who you are and
mhm,
your commitment of identifying what's important to you,
100%.
rather than as a we.
Right.
Because I was definitely in a very long-term relationship, very young, in my life, so during high school and then continued through college. And it wasn't until I moved to New York City that I was like, okay, yeah, this isn't going to work long distance now.
Mhm,
And nor did I want it to because I wasn't interested in I wanted to move forward. And so it
mhm,
was like a really easy, clean break for me because I was moving to another city.
mhm,
And so I was like, okay, so, and that was probably the best experience, right? Like to
mm,
be able to kind of separate. And I was 25 when that happened.
mhm,
And I'm just like really grateful for that. I did
mhm,
that because then it allowed me to explore and experiment, not necessarily, but just like to know who I am and what
mhm,
people I wanted to be with and what was, where my passions were. And
mhm,
although I was very grateful for my time with this individual during that part of my life, it was because there were deep influences from there and things that he had introduced me to that I would never have I hadn't been exposed to,
right.
from music and literature and popular culture and so many other things that were just so meaningful and impactful and have defined who I am now,
Mhm,
that without that, I wouldn't be here. And so it's kind of like, how do you reconcile all of that? And I think coming back to this idea of focus, because here I just got off focus.
as did
I
I,
would,
as we
I
do.
know, as we do. But it is that, like, kind of taking stock of where you are. I was
Mhm,
talking to my older kiddo last night who is, the crunch time at the end of the semester for the spring semester for college
mhm,
and
mhm,
feeling like very scattered and kind of stressed with all the things. And I'm like, well, before you start anything, why don't you slow down?
mhm,
Take a moment to pause
mhm,
be present
Mhm,
before you proceed. So it's this
mhm.
idea of slowing down to speed up.
Yeah, 100%, which feels so counterintuitive in the moment, right? Because you feel
Absolutely.
so like, "Oh my god, my list is so long, I just have to start crossing things off," and
Right.
that's another place where, you're putting your body into some level of anxiety, of desperation, of, you know, whatever it is, and so it can tend to
Yep.
really spiral on you, and
Absolutely.
then create those other feelings of if I'm doing anything but this stuff on my list, I am some shade of bad, right?
Right.
And that can then create a whole
Yeah.
'nother spiral. I think that, it's such a I mean, it's a book, right? Slow Down to Go Fast or whatever. I feel like it's a book.
There's
Um,
so many books that way.
I feel like it's a Jim Collins book
Mhm.
or something, but,
Oh, no, that was Good to Great. I
Good to
think there was
Great.
also, yeah, but then, I know Celeste Ng, I think?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the Do Nothing. There was something
Yes,
specific
something.
around some of these. But
Yeah.
I also come back to Oliver Berkman's book, 4,000 Weeks: Time Management for
Yeah.
Mortals,
Yes.
because that's exactly what he's talking about too,
Yes.
is like, how do you, like, we only have 4,000 weeks in this particular life,
Right.
if we're lucky.
Right.
We'll have a few more, maybe,
Right.
like, and 4,000 weeks, once you start to crunch those numbers and think about where you are now and how much more time out of those 4,000 weeks you have, you're kind of like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And once I realized that for myself, I was like, why am I wishing my whole week away starting on Sunday night?
Right. Yeah. And
And
it's
wishing
hard,
for
right?
all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard because like Eckhart Tolle talks about, being awake and being
Mhm.
present. And it's not that you reach some state of I'm never angry or I'm never afraid or I'm never anxious.
Right.
It's that you have a way of knowing, yes, there are pragmatic things in life that must be attended to. I will attend to those. And here's how I want to feel as I am walking through all of those things. And I can't
Yes. Yeah.
feel the best that I can or desire to without pausing to become awake and to become present. And,
Yeah.
his whole thing
Right.
is we create a false sense, right? We
Mhm.
make these constructs in our mind of, well, if I am this person, then this is how I should feel, this is how I should behave. Um, and there's an art of that letting go, right? And
Yeah.
saying, yeah, of course, we all have to make a living because somebody invented money. I'm sorry that happened, but it happened. And so now we have to figure out how we're going to deal with that and
Mhm.
how we're going to still
Yeah.
have the life we want to have, feeling the way that we want to have. Um, and I think there's a whole thing of our attachment to the outcome and the belief.
Mhm.
We talk so much about achievement and accomplishment and all of those things, and it's like we don't get anything until we
Yeah.
reach those points, and so that completely eliminates our ability to just be present in the moment and say,
Yeah.
Am I doing generally the right thing right now to hopefully get me to where I want?" But the amount of control that we have is so small. And
I
so it
know.
is, how do we find that way to live
Yeah.
in that moment? So when that anxiety strikes, like you did with your son,
Mhm.
okay, let's deal with that anxiety first, because that's not going to serve you at all as you go
Yeah.
forward over the
Yeah.
next X amount of
Yeah.
time in this
Er
semester.
and it was actually my daughter, so just so
Okay, sorry, got it.
no, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
but no, yeah, so just, like, helping her through that moment of
yes,
anxiety, and I do that with my husband too, because it's really funny
yeah,
whenever he feels pressure to, like, speed up and do things quickly,
yeah,
I can always tell because
yeah,
he's like a little hamster in a wheel, and he's going I'm like, "You're not moving any faster."
right, right,
Then I go, "Can you just calm down a moment? Bring
yeah,
your energy level down,
yeah,
and you're gonna continue at the same pace."
yeah, or faster.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if you
yeah.
think about we had solar installed at our house
Mhm.
recently, and they had to come back, and go through every single switch on our panel
Oh,
to figure
wow.
out what controlled what in the house. And this was my husband was doing what you just described your husband. He was like running around and it's hot that day and he's sweating and he's like he didn't just pause to say, how
Yeah.
could I methodically do this so that I don't have to go back and recheck anything, right?
Right.
That
Right.
as I get one done, I don't have to go back and check everything again because I know one is done. So I know that's done. So don't even bother checking that particular outlet or that particular room. And it came down to stuff like, I mean, whoever thinks about this, what circuit is your doorbell on?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Just like nuts. And I said, can I help you? And he's like, yes. Oh my God, this is so hard and we have to get it done. And I said, okay, well, stop for a second and tell me how I can help. And he's like, just come out here. And I said, no, no, I'm not going to do what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Exactly.
he
Exactly.
continued on for like another half hour running around and all of that stuff. And finally I did go out there and I said, okay, everybody stop for a second, because he handed the thing to me and he's like, I just can't do this anymore. I need you to do it. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And I stopped everything and said, what are we doing right now? What have we identified? What haven't we identified? Because in my head, I'm not running around checking
No.
everything that I've already checked.
Agreed. Agreed. 10,000%.
And I get it. He wanted to get it done and he thought moving
Yeah.
faster would be the way to get it done
Mhm.
faster.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that
he
funny?
he didn't want these poor guys to have to sit out there in the sun in front of the
No.
panel all day long and da 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 da. And it ended up taking longer the way that he was doing it. So
Yeah. It
anyway,
is that
yeah.
it is that frenetic energy and
Yes,
that
frenetic.
it it is. It's
Yeah.
something about that, and it just reverberates though too, because you can feel it too, and it comes
Yes.
off the person as they're like,
Yes.
"Oh, we gotta get through this. We gotta do this." And you end up making mistakes.
Mhm.
You again, it's just not being very thoughtful or how you want to proceed forward, and it just
Right.
it just
Yeah.
happens. And so sometimes just taking that pause can actually help you to go
Yeah.
faster in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, exactly. Or at
Yeah.
least do what you're doing without
Yeah.
that frenetic energy. And
Right.
if I decide my standard is, yeah, maybe I will sometimes be frenetic, but I never
Mhm.
want to feel that way, more than 4 times in a week. I don't wanna feel that way. And
I
so
love
then it's
that.
up to me,
That's a good
right?
catch.
Well, whatever.
I love that.
You know, then it's
Mhm.
up to me
Yeah.
to say, is the frenetic feeling I have warranted
Yeah.
right now?
Oh, that's a
Um,
really I love that question. I'm sorry if I pause you. I'm
no, no,
just gonna
no, go
pause you
ahead.
for a moment on that,
No, no.
because that's another thing that I talk about
Mhm,
with my husband and my kids is like, and
mm,
for myself and people
mm,
that I work with is, okay, think about the energy you're expending right now
mm,
and how much energy it is taking you to do this thing now
mhm,
because of the hyped up sort of elevation
mhm,
of the energy you're expending.
mhm,
Is it worth that?
mhm,
And if it were some fuel, if it were fuel that we could actually measure and see, aside
mhm.
from caloric intake, right? People would pause,
Yeah.
because if they thought, oh, I'm driving this vehicle, and whether it's electric or gas or however it is powered, if I'm driving this vehicle and it only has X amount in it, and I know if I do Y, that makes it go faster, but it's more frenetic and it takes more energy
Mhm,
to get from point A to point B, they may slow down
mhm,
and still get there at the same time, you
mhm.
know,
With more fuel
with
when they
more
get there.
fuel.
Yeah,
Hmm.
or battery
Yeah,
charge.
and
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And the anxiety level goes down. I think your health benefits, there's huge health benefits to it too,
of
because
course.
we're in that anxiety sort of hyped up anxiety level. It's all that cortisol that's just being
Yeah,
pumped through your body.
yeah,
And yeah,
100%. So, it's, here we are back at, like, self-awareness,
yes.
right?
Always comes back.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're right back here
Yeah.
again. Yeah,
Self-awareness, what?
yeah. Then
Yeah, and yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna, like, tactically, when it comes to focus, I've watched so many companies do this, right? Where they've said, okay, well now we're going to use Rike. Okay, now we're going to use Trello. Okay, now we're going to use OneNote. Now we're going to use,
Yeah.
right. And they think it's the tool
Yes.
that
Yes.
is the thing that is suddenly going to miraculously give everybody
Yes.
individually focus. Oh, and collectively aligned focus. And it's like, no, it is never the
Oh my
tool.
gosh.
Right? It is never the tool. It is the
Yes.
process that the humans have to use in order to do that. And
Mhm.
for me, of course, I fell prey to that. Of course I did.
Yeah. Of
Because
course. I did too. I did
yeah,
too.
somebody's showing me, "Oh, look at this cool new tool." And I look at it
Yeah.
on the Zoom screen share and I'm like, "Oh, that is
Yeah.
cool. Wow,
Ooh,
look at
yeah.
that. I can really
Yeah.
imagine that." And so then I go in and I burn however much time I do. I sign up for some subscription
Yeah.
only to figure out in the end, I got to stretch out my view for a second.
Yeah.
Only to figure out again for the I don't even know how many times I've had to do this is to figure out that I am just paper. I am just pencil and paper. That is me. And please stop
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
make a platform do magic because it won't. Because at the end, it's about me
Yes. Yep.
deciding where am I going to focus? How much time am I going to spend? And I'd much rather spend time learning. This thing took longer than
Yeah.
I thought it would. So now I know better for next time instead
Yeah.
of spending that time learning how to use a new platform, attaching files to it and then losing them because
Mhm.
I put them in some weird buried 13 clicks away menu spot, right?
I can
So
so relate to that.
I know. And I
Yeah.
know there's people people have argued with me, right? Like, "Oh,
Mhm.
but no, it's so much easier because then it just pops up on your
It's like,
calendar, da 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 da." And
mhm.
I'm like, "I'm glad it's easier for you. I'm glad that
Yeah.
helps you. And if you notice your productivity improving because of that, I think that's awesome." And I have now like drawn the line again in the
Mhm.
sand that says, "Do not spend any more time on a productivity app."
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
ultimately didn't change my behavior, which is what
Mm.
had to change. It still has
Right.
to change, right? So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah. It is. It's like those productivity apps or productivity frameworks or
Yeah,
that the learning curve of having to do it is so high that it's really challenging, right?
yeah,
And unless it's something that is you're naturally inclined to do,
right.
it can feel almost impossible.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so that actually reminds me too, because we're in this process. We had some water damage in our apartment, and we're getting things fixed. And had
yeah,
our some of our cabinets on the walls were like literally splitting at the seams, so they replaced all of our cabinets.
yeah.
And but because the cabinets that we had were so old, they couldn't find the exact same of what we
Mm.
had.
Mhm,
So now we're having to like refigure and rethink about how do we
mm,
want to organize our kitchen.
mhm.
And so, of course, in a New York City, Brooklyn apartment, it's going to be fairly narrow
Yeah.
and limited space, but we're just trying to be thoughtful. So even though like our sink to one cabinet is like 50 yards, not even 50 yards, it's like 4 yards away,
That's a
4 feet
really
away.
long
Not even
kitchen.
four, not 4 yards. What am I thinking? Like 4 feet away, like four or
Yeah,
5 feet away, right?
yeah.
It's like really short and it's very small, but it's like, wait, when we for dishes, we usually take them, we use them, we put them in the sink, we put them in a dish drainer because we don't have a dishwasher. We put them in a dish
Mhm,
drainer
mhm,
and then we put them away.
mhm,
And so why are we taking the stuff from the dish drainer and going all the way over here to put them away? Why not use the cabinet right above the dish drainer to put the dishes in? And
mhm,
the cups, like things that we're using on a day in and day out basis.
mhm,
And so that's like so just really thinking about the flow of how
mhm,
we work and what is
mhm,
our natural
mhm,
tendencies.
mhm,
And that's what I find even with my husband and working with him because it is this working with another person too.
mhm,
Like I could
mhm.
do it for myself. I'm like, I know what my flow is.
Right.
But working with another person and having them really consider and think about their
Yeah,
own flow and how they work.
yeah,
So to make it easier and to create ease rather than friction
yeah,
is so important.
yeah.
Yeah, because I know sometimes too where I will like right now I'm in a friend's home because of all the stuff that our home, but and one of the things observe when I step into her space is kind of thinking about, I can see how what her
Mm.
flow is
Mhm,
and
mhm,
what her natural tendencies are.
mhm,
And I'm like, oh, have you considered doing this instead of that?
mhm.
And she's like, oh, that's great. And so we'll do that. And she's like, that just changed my life. So it's like really simple tweaks and
Yeah,
modifications that help to create that ease, right? And that ease isn't necessarily to create more work for you, but it's to allow you to move through your life with ease without having so much friction that you're spending and expending energy on friction, but so
yeah,
that you can actually have the space and capacity to feel joy and be with the people you love and care about in the
yeah,
end.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, that friction that you're describing, it's not just about time, right? It's not just about
Yeah.
efficiency of motion. It's about, to
Correct.
me, if I haven't spent the time somewhere in my
Mhm.
life learning about the kinds of people that I really like to be around, the kinds of
Mm,
conversations I like to have, the
yeah.
times in my life when I felt so happy, free, unburdened, trying to replicate those and trying to identify
Yeah.
what was it about those situations and the converse, right? These kinds of people, these kinds of conversation, these kinds of environments are places that add friction to my
Mhm.
life. And I think if
Yeah.
I love just adopting the term friction, right?
Mhm.
Because now it's not weighted by, I hate this, or they make me
Right.
feel small, or they hurt my feelings, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
bring all of that into it. It just is kind of a very pragmatic and distanced way of saying what's creating friction for me. And
Mhm.
we can't even begin to do that until we
Mhm.
understand what is frictionless. What
Yeah.
would frictionless look like? I always think about this movie when I talk about this, The Runaway Bride with Julia
Mhm.
Roberts and whoever
Yep.
else, Dylan McDermott.
Yeah.
And, she has almost gotten married however many times, and the people in the town are taking bets. Will she actually do it this time?
Yep.
And what it comes down to at the very end is she has never learned what she actually wants.
Yeah.
And so I think she ends up with Richard Gere, right? I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't
I
remember. It's
think so. That was my
another one of
recollection
them
of the movie
2
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he cooks for her every style of egg because what he had
Mm.
noticed was that she would always wait to place her order until whoever she was with would order, and then she would get the same thing they got. And she had
Yes.
never discovered something as simple as, I like scrambled, I like over medium, I like poached, I
Yeah.
like hard
Mhm.
boiled, I like whatever. And even that can be a tiny moment of friction, that
Yeah.
you're eating a runny, gross, sunny side up egg when what you'd really want is hard, dry scrambled.
Yeah.
And that's a little
Yep.
tiny moment of friction. And,
Yeah.
so I think being able to identify those things
Mm.
is, it takes a minute.
It does. And it does take that self-reflection too,
Yeah.
and recognition that,
Yeah.
"Oh, wait, there is this friction." And it's not that the other person or other people in the in your life are necessarily being intentional to cause that friction. I mean, there are
Right.
moments where definitely they
Sure.
are, but other times they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to go in thinking that it's not intentional, but it's just them being them in the world.
Yeah.
And so you have a responsibility and a way to exercise your own personal power and agency to be able to figure out, like, how do I work to, like, ease this friction for myself
Mhm.
in this situation
Mhm.
without blaming and pointing at this other
Mm.
person or the situation. It's like, okay, well, this is kind of the reality of it, but still, how can you move within that reality to avoid some of those bumps and bruises for yourselves with the friction that could occur?
Yeah. I mean, there's a core question, right? It's like, because
Yes.
where does life happen? Life happens in relation,
Mhm.
right? It happens with other
Absolutely.
people. And,
Mhm.
in my own personal journey, which I'm just learning now, which is super fun at my age to be learning, is when you think you're doing the nice thing, but by doing it,
Yeah.
you're compromising something about yourself over
Mhm.
time. You can't keep doing that. Over time, it
Right.
will not work out. And it's not just doing the things that you would rather be doing. or that you want to do. It may not be rather, but it might just be do the things that you want to do. But it's also being willing to share what's happening inside of you.
Yes.
And
Yep.
when we say show up as your whole person, right? It's tremendously vulnerable. Of course it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Because the other person also has then that chance to say, I like what you're doing. I like who you are. I don't like what you're doing. I don't like who you are. And
Yeah.
that's
Completely valid.
okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's not about
Yeah.
me. It's about
Yeah.
them.
Yep.
And I was
Yep.
just talking to a young married couple the other day, and I said, it's hard to figure out what you're doing in relation.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
hard to
Yeah.
know, when do I advocate for myself versus respect who they are also. And if you're already committed in your mind, right, then you're both making these weird censored decisions throughout the length of the relationship. And then
Mhm.
this is a young married couple, right?
Yeah.
And so they're going to then add children to their
Yep.
equation. They're going
Just
to keep working
yep.
on whatever they're working on. Um, it reminds me of, when kids want to get pets, and
Yeah.
it's like the energy, the time, the money, just that for a
Yeah.
pet.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
that. It's
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
quantifiable. That is
It is.
quantifiable. And decide, because what do you get back for it? Are you getting the love that we get pets for? Right? We get it
Yeah.
as an emotional filler, right? So are you
Mhm.
getting that?
Yeah.
Or has the dog become, we leave it in the backyard because it's so demanding and because it jumps on people and whatever, whatever, whatever. It's like it's
Yeah.
adding something to your life. So sorry, my brain is just like, woohoo,
Oh,
this is such a
no,
fun
but
conversation, Kim.
no, it's so interesting. So that it is that, like, I've been very aware of this concept of when we're trying to solve a problem, we always tend to
Mm,
look at the problem and we add to whatever is existing to
mm,
solve that problem,
mm,
rather than looking at whatever is existing and saying, wait, is it really about adding something, or is it moving something, or is it removing something, and really thinking about it in a different way.
mhm,
Um, and it just reminds me of, I did this innovation training way, way back in my career, which did do that, right?
mhm.
Where it was like, oh, well, let's take the process flow. Well, what if you did this here instead of here? And
Yeah,
how would
sure.
how can you make that true? What are
Yeah,
things you can do to actually create that as a
yeah,
reality?
yeah,
And it really got you out of the stuckness of like, this is fixed and I have to add and glab onto these things and make it bigger. And that's why I feel like so much of our world and our life and the systems that we're working through and working
mm,
within are so complex, because we have to
mhm,
keep just adding and adding and
mhm.
adding and adding, rather than just reviewing and saying, wait, does this still make sense as a whole?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've known people in jobs where they step into the job,
Mhm.
um, a new manager comes in, and they've been producing a report week after week after week after week after week. The new
Yep.
manager receives the report, doesn't even open the email because doesn't even know why they were receiving it, right? And the person is spending an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours on doing this report, and then finally one day they realize like, "Oh, no, we don't even need that anymore." And it's just kind of,
And
you
nobody
just
told
keep
them.
doing it. Right.
And nobody
And
told
and
them.
and they didn't think to ask
No,
either, right? Whoops, I
exactly.
just turned things
Exactly.
off.
Oh,
I don't know how I did that.
oh no.
I don't know what I did. Oh, well, it doesn't matter.
It's okay.
I
It's
don't
okay.
know what I
Um,
unplugged.
oh, you're light, but it's good.
Yeah,
It's
my
good.
light went off. I
Um,
don't know why.
uh, so we're about at 35 minutes now. So
There we go.
there you go. Oh, we illuminated this situation for you. Yay.
Ah,
So we're about 35 minutes in. I think, this is probably a good place to kind of start wrapping up
yeah,
and kind of
absolutely. I
sharing some of
agree.
our final thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, we kinda went all
S-
over. I don't know.
No, I,
What are your
yeah.
nuggets?
Yeah. So some of my nuggets is that, focus isn't just about focusing on tasks
Yeah,
and focusing on productivity
yeah.
or having a to-do list and these are the things you got to do and you got to just focus on that, but really looking at it holistically for yourself and understanding your environments, understanding your workflow, understanding who you are, and where are the frictions happening,
Mhm,
and what can you start to think about in terms of like, mitigating some of that friction or smoothing it
Mhm,
out a little bit. Maybe you just need some sandpaper around it to kind of help you smooth the edges. I don't
mhm,
know.
mhm.
Or maybe that friction is good. Maybe you do need that friction to slow you down. And then you just decide how much energy do you want to use to actually try to go over that bump.
Yeah,
And maybe you just slow down to go over the bump, and that's okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are great. I'm totally gonna run with this idea of friction. I love it.
Yeah, great. It's yours. That's all of ours. We can all
It's
do
all of
it.
our yeah, right. There's a great song I listen to called "Friction." I love the song, so I'm gonna go back and listen
Mm,
to it again. I don't even know what
yeah.
it's about. I just know that I like the beat, and it makes me feel good when I'm driving, but, I think nuggets for me are, uh, going back to early when we said go slow,
Yeah.
and go slow on lots of things. Go slow
Mm,
on yourself to really be honest with yourself about what is it that makes me feel the way I want to feel
mhm,
in my life walking around. Um, and because our kids are early 20s and it's we're right in the thick of
yeah.
them making big decisions, it's like it's okay if you don't like the way a person shows up in the world, and so therefore you decide that's not your person.
Right, right.
That's okay. It's okay for you
Yeah,
to do that because who you hang
yeah,
out with becomes everything that you're gonna do. So I think that,
yeah.
slow down, friction, self-awareness, um, and I think release outcome, control
Mm,
need,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I think that's what lends itself to what you were describing. If we keep adding on, we keep adding on. And I
mhm,
think if you just try to stay with, the furthest timeline I'm gonna try to stay most present with is today.
yeah. That's all you have is the moment we're in.
Yeah, and I can
Yeah.
either do it or not do it, and there will be consequences, positive or negative, maybe, for each one. But
Or
yeah.
nothing, or not even I mean, there's consequences, but it has no, like, weight of
Right.
positive, negative, it's just neutral. It's just
It
like,
just
"Okay."
is. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just every
exactly.
action has a reaction. There's gonna be
Yep,
something. Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
I
no,
like
I
that.
like that. I love that a lot. So,
Yeah.
no, this was a great, great conversation. I really appreciate you doing this with me. It's really, really
It's so
lovely.
fun. A
Yeah, it
great
is
way to
really
start
fun.
my day and go into my weekend. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
me too. Me too. And we'll schedule something for the next month and
You bet.
we'll see where we go. So
That's
thank
right.
you.
Who knows? Who knows?
I know.
It could go
So
anywhere.
good. It's so good. All right. So let's see if I can make this happen in terms of just closing
100% you
this
can.
out. Let's see. I'm trying to do this. Oh, here we are.